Evening, everyone. It is March 18th of 2025, and welcome to the second episode of the Unspoken Narrative. I am Floyd Getchell, and I am a history scholar and a researcher, and today's topic is going to be civics, and it's going to cover a broad spectrum of things about the current situation in the United States, and you're going to get a bit of a civics lesson, and it's going to cover a broad spectrum of things, and hopefully people will understand things that are happening here in the United States a little bit better as a result of it, and hopefully you'll learn some things. First off, thank you for those of you that watched episode 1 about the Kennedy assassination. They released the 80,000 pages of stuff, and as I mentioned in episode 1 on the Kennedy assassination, it was the evidence was buried in there like I presented. Terrible accident that happened. I'm not going to drop it here. You're going to have to watch episode 1. Got to get those views up. Things are going really well. A lot of people are getting in there and seeing what has transpired, or what did transpire on with the Kennedy assassination. But let's get into our topic on civics. First off, a lesson in racism. Okay, and we're going to use me as an example. First off, you think, hey, it's this old white guy, and he is a Christian. Wrong, folks. I am not a Christian. I am a historian. I have a very hard time with the Christianity who was Christ as a historic person. I do believe I try to live my life Christ-like, believing in the teachings of Christ, but the omnipresent God can only have one child. That doesn't make any sense. That is his representation of here on earth. The omnipresent God could do that anytime he wanted. Okay, doesn't have a monopoly on it. I believe very much in the teachings of Christ. The Bible was mutated to control people, and we'll get more into the control of people. The other things about me, but you made that, the thing is, you, because I'm a white guy, you made that assumption. The default, I'm Jewish. No, I'm not Jewish, but I believe very much in Judaism. All right, Judaism laid the foundation work. Jesus was actually he wasn't trying to create a new religion. He was trying to open up Judaism to non-Jews. And that is one of the reasons that the Jewish rabbis turned him over to the Romans, who turned him back over to the rabbis to have him tried and executed, because they wanted to get rid of him. He's creating too much chaos in the area, preaching all this stuff about freedom. You don't need to listen to the authorities. The way to God is through, it was actually more transcendentalism. If you read the actual Bible, not the King James Version, because that's been touched too many times by the hands of men, it is not the Word of God, it's the Word of man. And so the point, you made some assumptions there, racist assumptions, because I'm a white guy. So there's your lesson in racism. All right. And racism, the reason I brought up racism is it is a tool that the oligarchs use to divide us. And that's our civics lesson. Division. What's going on in the United States right now is a power struggle between globalists and people that don't want to be part of the global government. I don't want to be part of the global government. Flag. Oh, if you, that's another racist thing there. The flag, the Gadsden flag, has been called racist. It's from our American Revolution. It's one of our first flags that represented the independence. Where the snake comes from, one of the first representations, it was 13 colonies, and it was a picture of a snake, and it was divided up into 13 pieces, and each piece of the snake had the initials of the colonies next to the snake. And it was, if we are divided, we cannot win this, so we must come together. And then that represented the them coming together represented the snake. it is a symbol of unity of the original 13 colonies. Then the Gadsden flag, don't tread on me, is we were being tread upon by the British. Taxation without representation. We were being occupied, and we were British citizens at the time, the colonialists. And we were being occupied by the British. That's where, what is it, the Fifth Amendment comes from, where you're not supposed to quarter armies in our houses. That's where that comes from, because they were kicking people out of their homes and throwing their guys in our homes. And it's one of those amendments where just like, why the heck is this here? That's where it comes from. Most of all the 10 amendments, the first 10 amendments in the Bill of Rights, that's where those all come from, is the war. All right, why are we fighting this struggle that is under the surface, sub rosa? And the reason we're fighting this struggle is you have these people that are so rich, they don't care about money anymore. They want power. They're bored with money. They have so much money, they don't care. All right. And it has, some of these people have mental disorders, like some of them are sociopaths, some of them are psychotics, and they just want to control people. And even if they're not, their money has warped their thought process, and they just want to control people because it amuses them. The money's bored them, so they want to have that control just because they're bored. And some of them do have mental disorders, either by actually having them being born with the mental disorders, or because they have developed these out of boredom. And so we're their toys. Our toys. And they do, and how they control us is stick and carrot. Okay. They either control us by beating us or offering us something. Okay. The carrot. All right. And the carrot is one side in this argument offers free stuff. You see in the larger metropolitan areas, the voting demographics, people are voting for free stuff. Well, the free stuff has to come from somewhere. And a lot of people are so ignorant, they think the government just hands out free stuff, and they're unaware that free stuff has to come from somewhere. And people are so selfish that they just don't understand. They don't care. Well, I'm not paying for it. I don't care. That's selfish, and that can be a form of psychosis because it lacks empathy. And when we'll get into the different psychoses later, but there is no, because they lack empathy. That is one common denominator in all the psychoses I researched, is they lack empathy. And these people, they're removed from it, and they're just voting for free stuff. And so you will see in the large population centers in the United States, those people are voting for free stuff. That is what they're doing. The other thing they have, and we've seen a lot of this lately, especially coming out of the media, is fear. And they are using fear. They're calling the other side, the funniest thing in the world is because the national, they're being called Nazis. And the Nazi is actually National Socialism. And as far as a political movement, it is actually more of what the Democrats in the United States are trying to do. It's actually hilarious. Bernie Sanders, who supposedly is Jewish, the party, he's independent, but his party name is National Socialists Democratic Party, which is exactly the same name that the Nazis, that's what Nazi means, is National Socialist Democratic Party. That's what the acronym Nazi stands for. It's absolutely hilarious. So anyway, the other thing, and so that is the fear, okay? That's the stick. I'm going to use fear to motivate you to do something. So you run around, you're calling people, this guy is a Nazi, he's Hitler, on and on and on, and people are so freaked out that they start taking shots at people or destroying car dealerships. He's the worst thing in the world. Well, weren't you praising this guy 2 years ago because he was saving the whole world because of his electric cars and making the whole world green. Well, pick something. Back to religion, it's like Christians who hate Jews. The guy you worship, Christ, was a Jew, but you hate Christians? Or you hate Jews? That doesn't make any sense. Pick one. Actually, don't pick one. Understand you're supposed to, most Christians, if you're doing it right, you'd actually be Jewish, because that's what Christ wanted. He wanted you to be Jewish. Anyway, they're trying to divide us. The purpose of all this, I apologize, the purpose of all this, what are these people that are manipulating us, the globalists in the struggle, trying to do? They're trying to divide us by race, sex, and religion, because they want to keep us, all us individuals, the people, the minions, all of us, minion, I'm a minion too, I'm lower income. They want us to divide us, so we're sitting here screaming at each other as they take our rights away from us so they can control us, and they can have their control. And like with the pandemic, that was an effort to see how much control they could exert on us and how much we'd be willing to put up with. Because we now know it was complete and utter BS, the whole pandemic. They should have immediately stopped those people that were getting off the planes from China. They should have stopped them, like up in the airport in Seattle. Those people should have been stopped and put in immediately into quarantine. What did they do? They let them keep rolling around, and one of the first places they ended up is a nursing home in, I think, Federal Way up there. And those people, a bunch of those people died in that nursing home, and the spread went on from there. And they could have controlled that. They could have controlled that. We could have immediately closed our borders, but people got to have rights. What, rights to infect everybody else? That's nuts. And all these people keep screaming about rights. Illegal aliens with rights? Illegal aliens don't have rights. They're not U.S. citizens, okay? No, they don't have rights. Anyway, that's another thing they divide us on, is a border. I'll get into that in a bit here. Sexism, they use that all the time. Women's rights. Right now, it's trans rights they're dividing us over, okay? Now, the issue of trans rights. I have transsexual friends. They are great people. They do not have mental disorders, okay? I have other acquaintances that have started the transition, but one has a mental disorder and another one just wanted attention. One of those look at me people, oh, I'm going to be trans, they started saying one day, okay? And it was amusing because they started doing the hormone treatments and their body rejected it because they were so much of they were a man, a man's man. It was really interesting to watch the psychology play in this person. But it's good to support people like that. But when you support them to the detriment of other people, it is wrong. A woman should never have to be subjected to being exposed, having a man exposed. Okay, some dude exposes himself in Central Park to a woman, he's arrested, but it's okay for an athlete to do it in a woman's locker room? No, wrong. Wrong on so many different levels, I can't even believe it. So you're allowing this person who identifies, nothing's changed about him. He just says, oh, I'm a woman today. Nothing physiologically has changed about them. They just said, oh, I'm a woman today. I mean, I used to dress up in my late teens, I think 15, 16, and 17 for Halloween. I used to dress up as a woman in drag. I thought it was freaking hilarious. My friends thought it was hilarious. Thank God my parents didn't decide to cut my junk off, okay? Because they wanted my parents, and there are a lot of parents out there that are like this, especially in the People's Republic of California. There are a lot of parents out there that go, oh, I have trans kids. And then the other, oh, wow, they're getting a lot of attention over there. And then the other parent goes, oh, well, they can't be the only parent on the block. I got to keep up with the Johnsons. I have trans kids too. There are a bunch of celebrities right now. One in particular, she has trans kid. Jordan Peterson said the possibility of, he actually did the math on it. It was pretty hilarious. Possibility of this one actress having 3 trans boys was in the billions. Okay? So, no, wrong answer, but it is a form of sexism, and the nation's divided over it right now. Religion. Okay. Now, religion, this is really interesting. They do divide us on religion, okay? But it's not what you think. We have one religion that's trying to kill all the other religions, and that's Muslims, okay? And don't tell me Islam is a religion of peace, okay? Book 2, line 92 and 93, kill or convert. I'm paraphrasing, but book 2 of the Quran, 92, line 92, 93, kill or convert all non-believers. All right, it's right there. So don't ever try to argue with me that it is a religion of peace. It's not. But what they're trying to do with religion is they're trying to destroy religion. They're trying to actually destroy religion. And that's why you have the conservative movement here in the United States. And that is one of the things that is most hated by the oligarchs, because they are trying to replace religion with worship of the state, like you have in the Soviet Union during the Stalin era. They got rid of all the churches in Russia after the Tsar was put down, and Lenin they wanted to make state religion. You have people worshiping the state. Okay, steps to seize control. These are the steps the oligarchs are trying to run us through. Okay, you want to disarm the citizenry, and we'll get into the Second Amendment in grade. You want to create division. We've already talked about some of the division. You want to create false flag events. Now, to my knowledge, we haven't seen any of these, but that actually gets back to immigration. You bring all these immigrants in here, and then you have this civil unrest, and we'll get into why that's important. You have civil disorder. We had the riots, and that was pretty crazy, especially the George Floyd thing. That guy was a drug dealer. And he died, and the autopsy, the guy holding he would have died regardless. There just happened to be a white cop standing around when he died. He died from the drugs. He didn't die from being held down and help I can't breathe crap. All right. And then you have the other incident in the suburb of St. Louis. I can't think of the name of it, where the thug attacked the police officer. Yes, those are facts. And the police officer shot him. That guy just robbed a convenience store. All right. Then he attacked the police officer and he shot. And it happened to be a black thug and a white cop, and Obama. It's so funny because he read about Obama never experienced racism. Okay, first 10 years of his life he lived in Indonesia. He lived in Hawaii as well, and then his grandparents raised him because his mom was a train wreck. His grandparents raised him. They're white. Okay, he went to white schools. He never experienced racism. All right, he was privileged. But he went to Columbia or something like that. He never, to my knowledge, experienced racism. He read about it in books. So he gets up there as he's a senator and whatnot. So he's read about racism. And so he thinks it's the 1960s and racism. And that's why we went so far back in time with regard to race relations here in the United States. All right. Sidetracked there, I apologize. So we disarm the citizens, we create division, we false flag events, civil disorder. The goal is to declare martial law and then to seize power. All right. That's why the border, like I said, I'll get back to the border. You have this mass influx, especially during the last administration. You have this open border policy with all these illegal immigrants were coming in. They had actually seized areas in Aurora, Colorado, which is a suburb of Denver, South Colorado. Beautiful area, very affluent area. But these Alagua or something like that. Got the gang out of Venezuela, of all places, got into that area, actually took control of several areas. You have the Democratic governor of Colorado denying it's going on, even though we have video footage being aired that it's actually happening. You have the Democratic uh, sheriff saying it's not going on, and then you have all these federal agencies trying to go, hey, if you're not going to do anything about it, we need to do something about it. The goal is to destabilize things within the United States to the point where you can get martial law declared. So you can have the UN come in, and there are UN, there should not be, but there are United Nations offices within the United States. I know there's one in Salt Lake City. I don't know where any else are at, but these are these aren't. The United Nations is not a country. It is I don't know what it's supposed to be a cooperative of nations, but they act, that building up there, they act like it's foreign soil, and it's not. Anyway, being compassionate on all these issues, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom to exercise your sexuality, is great, but not if it hurts other people. All right. And one of the, like, harboring the violent criminals, especially illegal aliens here in the United States, we don't want them here. Okay. Come live the American dream, but come exercise your right. You don't have a right to commit crime. You act uncivil, you have no right to be treated civilly. Okay. Communism and socialism. Communism and socialism don't work. The reason they don't work is people are involved. The best example of this is the movie Office Space, where Ron Livingston's character is, I'm working just hard enough not to get yelled at. Okay, that's how communism works. People work just hard enough not to get yelled at in communism and socialist settings. Everybody has a job. There's no handouts in communism. That's one of the funniest things. Everybody thinks they're just going to sit around and not work. No, you got to work hard enough not to get yelled at. But the thing is, there's supply side economics things where everybody's making something, they're making it poorly. All right. And so their funniest thing, one of the funny things in Russia was you get a free car. Well, the thing is, when your kid's born, you sign him up to get the car, and maybe by the time he's 18, he'll get the car, the free car. And the free car is going to be a piece of garbage because it's been made by other Russian workers that are working just hard enough not to get yelled at. There's no quality going into any of this. All right. The whole yay communism, socialism is great. It's because it's being taught in schools. This goes all the way back to Lenin. Hitler liked the idea too. That's why you had Hitler Youth in Nazi Germany. Vladimir Lenin, where Vladimir Lenin got it from was from Sunday schools, okay? Teaching Sunday school to children. That's where he picked up the idea. He goes, if we can indoctrinate the children in communism, then we'll have communist adults. I think I just quoted him. Okay, why gun control doesn't work. The simple rule is gun control is a law. Criminals, by definition, don't follow laws. Really, really, really good example of this is Britain. Britain hasn't had guns for, I think, 100 years now. They quit. Normal people couldn't carry guns. They kind of freaked out about that when they almost got invaded during World War II by the Germans, and they started handing out guns to pretty much everybody. And it's kind of funny because a lot of people kept those guns and just hid them just in case. But just a few years ago, people started getting stabbed a whole bunch. Didn't stop any crime at all. There's still one of the more interesting nations that people point out with regard to gun control is Japan. Japan doesn't have any guns at all. After World War II, when we were occupying Japan, Douglas MacArthur took away all their guns. They don't have any guns. There's still quite a few people shot in Japan. They bring guns in from other countries and they shoot people. But the interesting thing is they have the same murder rate that the United States does per capita. The percentages are exactly the same. The funny thing is, or not, it's actually horrid and sad, but the murder rate is exactly the same. More people are stabbed and strangled. So people are still crummy, they just have different devices. Mass shootings. Mass shootings occur all over the world. Also, in countries that don't have any guns at all. There was a mass shooting I was reading about in Norway. The guy, and you think, oh, we have to have restrictions, more schooling, blah, 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 on and on and on. This guy went through all the different steps and everything. It took him like a year to get, I think he got a Ruger Mini 14, which is shoots the same bullet as the dreaded AR-15. Oh, and he did all that, and then he went and shot this place up. I believe he killed 12 people. Can't quote me on that. But anyway, that mass shooting, and he went through all the courses, and it took forever. The one thing he did not do, nobody sat down and, like, they should have had a psychologist interview this guy, because he was a psychotic, and but a psychotic with a goal. And most psychotics are one of the things they're not supposed to be able to do is plan. But if they have a goal, they can suppress their psychosis or their psychotic tendencies long enough to get a goal. AR-15, that was the thing I wanted to mention. AR-15s and M16 family weapons, AR-15, M16 family of weapons are not designed to kill. They never have been. Even the guy, it was so funny. I don't know why he said this. It was so just 3 or 4 years ago. He was on TV, and he said that the M16 was designed to kill. That is not true. M16 was never designed to kill. AR-15, same bullet, never designed to kill. It is designed to wound. This has to do with big giant wars like World War III. That's what it was designed to fight. Okay? That's why it has a little tiny bullet. Little tiny bullet going really fast, designed to wound. Because you have, if say we're fighting World War III, got to go back to the Cold War. World War III kicks off, and I am a squad leader, and I shoot Ivan if I shoot Ivan and I wound him, he's laying on the ground screaming. That's a great psychological tool. It's going to cause all the other little Ivans to go, hey, wait a minute, I could end up on the ground screaming. They're going to be less likely to fight. They may stop what they're doing and they help Ivan. From a numeric standpoint, giant war of attrition, I wound somebody, the actual number is 9 people. I take 9 people out of the fight, meaning all the doctors, the medevac people, and all that stuff, and the 2 guys that got to drag screaming Ivan back off the battlefield. Okay? Designed to wound. If I kill Ivan, he becomes a non-entity. Ivan's just laying there dead, and all the other little Ivans go, wow, Ivan's dead, and they keep coming at me. M16, if you look at what it actually does, it's designed to wound. Someone good with it that can keep their calm in a gunfight can kill with it. All these morons that you see shooting places up, none of them, to my knowledge, have the training to kill with it. All right. There is one incident where 2 bank robbers, the Pratt and Maddox shooting in Dade County, Florida, it was FBI, 2 bank robbers. They had a Mini 14, which is a 5.56 or 223 actually, which is a civilian name for 5.56 kind of. But they had one of those rifles. Those guys were trained, but that's because they took their profession as bank robbers very seriously and trained. The point being, M16 AR-15, never designed to kill anybody. It is a wounding weapon. Anyway, bottom line, gun control doesn't work because, simple fact, criminals don't respect the law. The one thing that does stop, and that's why you have to have Like I'm here in Arizona, we have unpermitted concealed carry. If I am a person that has no felonies, I can walk around without a permit, concealed carry. So the bad guys don't know who has a gun and who doesn't. That's awesome. We have actually seen a reduction in crime because of it here. Really cool. Perfect example of what stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun is that guy that walked into the church in Texas a few years ago. He pulls out his pistol, said something, and the dude made an outstanding headshot with his pistol at probably 35 feet. It was outstanding. It's on video. You can look it up on YouTube. That's how you stop a bad guy. You also had that former Air Force guy that should have, the Air Force failed to process paperwork, declaring him mentally unfit. And so it didn't flag when they did the background check when he bought his AR-15. He runs around, he shoots up that church, he gets out, and how was that stopped? Another dude ran out, grabbed his AR-15, and shot him. That's how you stop these bad guys. The more armed citizens there are, the safer you are, okay? They talk about, oh, what is this, the Wild Wild West? The funniest thing in the world, the rate of homicide during the Wild Wild West was actually really low. Why? Because everybody was armed and they knew how to shoot, okay? It's just one of the funniest things that gets lost in, I guess, history, the great lies of history. Okay, we have really interesting brand new government agency, DOGE. Okay, Department of Government Efficiency. All right, and they are running around. It's kind of interesting. They're using what's called artificial intelligence, which actually isn't artificial intelligence. It's programmed intelligence, and I'm going to do another segment on artificial intelligence in a few days here. And it is, what it's pulling up is it's finding out what they're afraid of, and why a bunch of people are screaming about it is it's showing who's corrupt. It's absolutely amazing. I'm going to screw her name up here, but it's Stacey Abrams. Stacey Abrams, I don't know if she's a former senator or whatever. They just found $20 billion for the Green Deal, environmental things, sitting in Citibank. And it had Stacey Abrams' name on it, and it was a brand new nonprofit. This money just went in there in November. I don't think all of it was hers, but part of it was. I think $2 billion of it was hers. Brand new nonprofit, just made it up. It was through USAID, I believe. And they just gave her the money. Go do something green, go support the environment. That's why you hear all this screaming. Oh, Doge is terrible. Doge, we shouldn't let them have access, blah, blah, blah. And that's the fear to divide us, but they're trying to protect themselves. And they're using fear as a means to get people that aren't knowledgeable of what is going on. They're using this fear to try to motivate people into action. A lot of it's criminal action to stop so they can keep their money. They're trying to keep their money. They're trying to keep their control. Do you want to be controlled? Do you want to go do criminal action to support them keeping their money? It's your money. It's your money they're trying to keep. They've stolen your money. They've stolen your money. They're trying to use fear to motivate you to do something, to call your senator, to call your rep, or to act violently out against people that are trying to keep your money. They're trying to find your money, trying to keep it. And they've actually talked about giving it back to us. They're trying to balance the budget. Who heard of a balanced government budget? That's the other thing that's crazy. And that's one of the things. This is why this segment's called Civics. I'm going to explain something to you. Our government is broken. Okay, our government is the funniest thing in the world. Our government is a monopoly. All right, are monopolies legal in the civilian sector? Yes, they are. They're illegal as heck because there's no competition. Monopolies are completely illegal. But and what that means, what does that mean, a monopoly? Okay, our government doesn't have to be efficient. You remember how we talked about how communism doesn't work because everybody's just working hard enough not to get yelled at? Well, the way the government unions, they have unions too for government workers. You can't get fired, so it doesn't matter if you don't show up for work. You're not doing your job because it's basically, it's communism. Basically, it's communism. So you have all these all these people working the communist system within our monopoly government that doesn't have to do anything better. And it's amazing to sit here and watch this, and people are going, oh, they just fired so many people, oh my god, oh my god. And it's just absolutely amazing, and people don't understand it. Well, the government workers haven't been doing anything, so firing them, like the email, they asked, hey, tell us what you did, 5 things you did. They just wanted to see if anybody was going to answer the email to begin with, because I bet a whole pile, I bet a third of the people they sent that email to, I bet a third of those people weren't there, didn't check their email to answer that email. Give me 5 things you did last week. I bet a third of the people, if they actually looked at the numbers, didn't answer that email. And not just out of spite. They didn't answer it because they hadn't been to work. They hadn't checked their email. That's how badly broken the monopoly of our government is. So when your government is broken that bad, who do you want to get in there and fix it? Successful business people, like the richest man in the world. And a guy who was taken and had the ups and downs, a developer out of New York, the guy who hired the first woman to put together one of the taller skyscrapers on the New York skyline back in the 70s. It's unfreaking heard of. But yeah, your president did that. Donald Trump did that. Okay, I love when people, oh, he's a misogynist. It's like, yeah, that's why I hired a woman back in the 70s to lead that building project. Yeah, things you don't know. Okay, you get a business leader to fix that. The other thing, one of the funniest things in the world they do, I don't know if President Trump is a student of history or he's got somebody bugging his ear. They talked about going around the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is a government bank. And back in the days when they were putting this country together, the founding fathers used to go round and round and round about this issue. We shouldn't have a government bank. Well, the Federal Reserve, we have a government bank. And a lot of people think that's not a good idea. Okay, because what do they control? They control the prime lending rate. Part of the problem with inflation is the government controls a prime lending rate. Well, they got a lot of money. All these, we're talking about all the people that are involved in the government now. They got a pile of money. And they were talking about going around the Federal Reserve and start lending their money, through to and for all these projects and whatnot. And they were talking about all these other crazy ideas, ways to generate income within the government. And they're talking about going around the Federal Reserve. And what would that do? That would get rid of the government bank. Okay. Now then, I talked to how we have identifying these people that have different psychoses. And a narcissist, one of the easiest ways to identify, you have these oligarchs. God, back in the 90s, Harvard did a study. We have been, the United States, we are supposed to be a constitutional republic. Harvard did this study. We have been an oligarchy for years. That means people with money control our government. All right. All those senators up there, they don't work for us. They work for their buddies. A really great example of this. I was in the Army, retired Army. I mentioned that in the first episode. The We carry the Beretta M9 pistol, and it's not a great pistol. Okay, of all the pistols that are out there, it's terrible. They renewed that contract. I think I was in 2010, and the guy, president of the where they're building those in Virginia, talked for 45 minutes about how great it was that contract got renewed. Not once did he say anything about providing a great pistol to the people in the military. He talked about how it provided jobs and all this other garbage, but he never talked about the military at all. When they initially put that factory there in Virginia, it guaranteed that that senator would get elected again, and the representatives in that area and all this other, or the senators and all this other stuff. But it was absolutely hilarious, because by the time that pistol was adopted in the mid 80s, the Glock was available. The Ruger had a pistol. The Ruger pistol wasn't that great, but it was durable. It was more durable than the Beretta. They had to lower the standards for the Beretta to qualify twice, and it still didn't outshoot the good old 1911. Not that I'm not saying that we needed to stay with the 1911, but I mean, they made the Beretta, basically, they forced the Beretta down our throats. I was in 2nd Ranger Battalion when we were the first unit issued, and they told us we had to trade our 45s 1 for 1. And we said, no, we're not doing that. Charlie Company took all the Berettas out to the range, shot them, and they all broke. And we're talking catastrophic failures. Now, these are the first ones they issued before they did the reinforcements. But they came, and they had all come in their individual boxes when they shipped them to us, and it was pretty hilarious, because they all didn't even put them back in the original box. They all just threw them in a pile in the big box and shipped them back to Beretta. It was pretty funny. Anyway, the point being is, they don't, the oligarchs are, that's what they care about, is controlling people and making money. Anyway, a narcissist, it's so funny when President Trump gets labeled as a narcissist, because one of the first things a narcissist will never admit they're wrong. Lie, cheat, steal, kill to avoid admitting they're wrong. A perfect example of, and when is no other way out for them, and everything proves that they're wrong, they'll kill themselves. Perfect example is Adolf Hitler. Adolf Hitler was a narcissist, textbook narcissist, with a messianic complex. He thought he was godlike. Frigging hilarious. And absolutely perfect. And the Russians are actually rolling across the Fuhrer bunker there in Berlin. No way out. And what does he do? He frigging bites on a cyanide capsule and puts a bullet through the roof of his mouth. All right. And don't get me this Hitler escaped. They had his jaw there, for crying out loud, and his dentist identified his jaw. So Hitler didn't escape to Argentina. All right. Anytime somebody chases that conspiracy down, just go, hey, they got his jaw in Berlin. Or maybe it's in Moscow. I can't remember. Anyway, no, he's dead. Died in 45. All right. Anyway, sociopaths have no empathy. All right. One of the easy tests for them, yawning, is apparently really easy, but they can't empathize with people. But the funniest thing I just read that there was this guy he knew that he had a friend who was a sociopath, but he knew it. And he was aware of ways to act that showed compassion. And so he had these set things, like when his friend was sad, he always brought him soup to make him feel better. He knew how to act empathetic, or empathetic, but not, it wasn't an emotional trigger. He just knew how to act. And he would tell people that. He goes, this isn't an emotional trigger. I just know you're feeling bad, so here's some soup. Okay. Psychopaths have 8 factors. I'm going to read these just to be sure. All right. They Machiavellian egocentrism. All right. That means they are, Machiavelli wrote the Prince, and that is basically it's a leadership guide to how to be a dictatorial ruler. Okay, they're very egocentric, uh, like dictatorially egocentric. They are very charming. Psychopaths will be. They are cold-hearted. All right, they have a challenging time planning. I just ran across one that had a good plan. They are fearless. They blame other people. They are impulsive, and they are immune to stress. Okay. The other thing that we talked about, the other issue is ego. Ego, ego and ego boundaries. People have self-images, all right? And the egos, people's egos, and we're not talking about like an egotistical person. You have a self-image, all right? This ego of self and ego boundaries. And you have, it takes a person with a lot of character to look at themselves and figure out what their ego boundaries are. And that means their image of self. And as a person, like as a person gains in wealth, their ego boundary or image of self, I have a lot of money. Well, I must be super special and know about all these. Like, if I have a whole bunch of money, I must know all these amazing things about all this special stuff. And people start getting into all these crazy things. Maybe they start talking about how uh, biomedicine works or something, and they become this oligarch trying to meddle in people's lives, and like, hey, I have no idea, I made millions in computers and you need to take this vaccine because it's special. And now we all know that vaccine is deadly, probably worse than the actual thing it was trying to prevent. Okay, ego. All right, that's another. A person's ego can get so out of control that it becomes psychotic. All right. How people become susceptible to this. It's called the human condition. The human condition, we all don't feel how that we are living. Something's wrong. We all walk around with this, something's wrong. And here's what it is. This is huge, gang. This is huge because we all feel something's wrong. We go about our daily lives and we feel something's wrong. And here's what it is. I just figured this out a while ago. We live outside of our niche, however you pronounce it, in the world. We are supposed to be hunter-gatherers. We live outside our niche in the food chain. We have removed ourselves. Our big brains got us out of the food chain. And that's the problem. We're not living as we should. We've removed ourselves from the earth. There are a bunch of studies that have been done recently about people sleeping on the ground, and then also people using grounding tapes in their bed to actually physically, like magnetically ground them to the earth, and it's improved their health and a whole bunch of other things. Basically, we've become to an extent too civilized. That's and so that's part of our problem. So we go looking for things, and so we go, and it makes us susceptible to these crazy things. I could be more helpful, something's wrong. We start wandering around, we looking for something to make us feel right. Oh, I could go help people. Well, I'm going to go help homeless people. Well, homeless people don't have a right to be assholes and shit on the street and stuff like that. That's not helping. Okay. I'm going to go help trans people. Well, trans people don't have a right to expose themselves to other people, especially minors, anywhere. Okay. And that's the oligarchs want. They want that division. They want that division. Okay. You don't have the right to oppress somebody else's religion. If somebody doesn't want to bake you a cake, that is their religious right to not bake you a cake. And you don't have the right to drive past 8 other freaking bakeries to put this poor family out of business to make a point. That just makes you an asshole. Okay? It's just wrong. You wanted to put them out of the business to make a point. They have a right not to bake you a cake based on their religious beliefs. That's oppression. It's just wrong. Just makes you an asshole. All right? I don't care what the court says. The court's wrong. Our courts are wrong. Our courts are based on maritime law, which is commerce-based law, not morality. If you want if you want to know that our courts are immoral, go get a divorce. My first divorce, it was hilarious. She was working full-time as a stripper, would take the kids into the strip club, and I still couldn't get the courts like, oh, she's an independent contractor and it doesn't matter if she's stripping. And oh my God, no morality at all. There's no morality in our legal system because it's based on maritime law. It's only designed to preserve commerce. It's just so wrong. We need to change our, if you look into it, if you look at the law of the land versus English maritime law, yeah, that's part of the reason our legal system's messed up. Anyway, another point of division. So anyway, and that's what they want. They want us struggling with all these little things as they take away our rights. If you want a globalist, yeah, or if you just hate America, it was started by people that own slaves. Yes, some of the founding fathers owned slaves. My favorite is Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson was an amazing man, but the thing was, and he had an extended relationship with Sally Hemings. He loved Sally Hemings. Okay, he really did. He was actually his wife's half sister. His father-in-law fathered both women. All right. And he loved Sally. He really did, because when he was the ambassador to France, he would go out as the ambassador and Sally would be on his arm, okay, because he could. All right. So, all you people that want to bash on Thomas Jefferson, you keep going right ahead, spreading your lies, but he loved her. He really did. All right. He freed, he God, he was a terrible lawyer. That's part of Thomas Jefferson's problem. He was an absolute terrible lawyer. In his will, he freed all her children when he died, and he freed her kind of, he wrote it really terribly. He freed his blacksmith, but he didn't free the blacksmith's family because he was a bad lawyer. And you don't, I know it's terrible to say, but yeah, we're on civics, so I'm going to go into this here. The Civil War. First off, back to Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson, in the initial draft, and you can look this up, it is a fact. The initial draft of the Declaration of Independence, which Thomas Jefferson is so famous for, he tried to abolish slavery in the first writing of the Declaration of Independence. And the other 5 people that were on that committee went, "Whoa, you can't do that." Okay, he knew better. He tried to fix it. He tried to make it right. And then all these historians playing Monday morning quarterback. There was just a thing on the History Channel, 6 parts deal on the Thomas Jefferson, and they failed to note that his relationship with Sally and how he treated her when he was in France. They never mentioned once that she accompanied him to those events. They talked about how it's just, anyway, how he hid the fact that she could walk away and blah, 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 on and on and on. But they never once said that she accompanied him to the, but you have all these other people that said, the beautiful woman that was with him accompanied him everywhere. Countless third parties, on and on and on, about how lovely they were and how they doted on each other. But they didn't cite any of that. Maybe they don't read French. I read French. F those guys. Man, that pissed me off. Anyway, I digress. The globalists, though, they want to take your rights away because they don't care. They just want power. They want more money. They want power. They want money to stay in power because they're bored. If you're okay with that, I can't help you. But what can you do? What can you do? You can start with yourself. Okay? first off, unite. We need to unite. Anytime you see yourself getting race baited by something, okay, look for the facts. All right? Look for the facts. Don't suck into the race baiting. Don't suck into the sexism. All right? If you think a man exposing himself to a bunch of women in a locker room because he sucked, like that guy that freaking was swimming against those girls. First off, it's going to throw off and she almost beat him. I can't think of her name right now. She's on the news all the time. But they tied. They actually tied. The dude lost. The dude tied. And the NCAA is like, oh, let's give it to him. Why? Because he sucks as a guy swimmer? He got beat by a girl. He tied a girl. Give it to her because she beat a guy. Come on, people. It's pathetic. He sucked. He was 187th in the guys' ratings nationally, and he got tied by a girl. Get off the podium, dude. Yeah, we can see your junk in your one piece there. Get off the stand or do a better tuck back. It's pathetic. Jeez. Religion. Quit thinking Muslims want to be your friend. They're your friend until they gain the majority. Then they start throwing. It's so funny, gays. Go look up what they do to gays over in the Muslim world. They throw them off the tops of buildings. Please, if you're a homosexual person that supports Islam, please, your ignorance is sad. All right, please stop. Okay, so anyway, but that's what you can do. You can. So anyway, that's your civics lesson. Don't suck into the division. Figure out when something pops on the news, ask why this is important. Why is this important? And why, when people are doing things, when people are not, and then common sense. I know common sense isn't common. It's one of the greater oxymorons we have in in Western culture. But apply or Occam's razor. Occam is a town in France. Okay, a bunch of monks are looking at the Bible. I know I covered this before in my first episode 1. But Occam's razor, and the monks are looking at the Bible, and whatever requires the least explanation, apply Occam's razor to whatever you're dealing with. Look at the situation, whatever the situation is. The president gave a speech to both houses of Congress the other day, and people were applauding. You have a 13-year-old cancer survivor that the poor kid is been battling cancer for almost half of his life, and people couldn't applaud. Why? Why couldn't they applaud? Why couldn't they applaud that child? Why couldn't they stand up and applaud that child? Why? What's Occam's razor? They're so mad at the man doing the speech that they can't applaud someone surviving. Why do we have to have this division? Why why is a man who was saving the planet by making electric cars, why are electric cars being burned now? Okay, why do we allow ourselves to be divided over issues of race and religion and politics? If you are allowing yourself to be angry and divided over these issues, you are allowing yourself to be a tool of the oligarchs. And if you want to give away your rights and be on this, if you hate America, America is the greatest country. 1 in 17 people in the world, you should be grateful that and I've been lucky in that, and I mean lucky, because it is hard to get into the military. And I was lucky. I served 23 years in the military, proudly. And I was lucky enough to do that. And I've definitely paid my dues. Okay. And it makes you grateful that I was one of 17 people born in that day or whatever, that there's probably 100 people, 100 and some people born in the United States that day, that I was lucky enough to be born here. And I'll always be grateful, always. Gratitude. People are literally breaking the law to get here. Some are breaking the law to break the law to get in here, or they're breaking the law to get here to break the law. And part of the reason is because our criminal justice system is so lenient. I mean, catch and release. What are they, trout? All right. No. And the thing is, I mean, we got to get tougher on crime. And if you haven't figured it out yet, I'm big on capital punishment. I don't think we're killing enough of them. Excuse me. I was a prison guard in maximum security prison for a year, and my conclusion after a year as a guard in maximum security prison is we are not killing enough of those people. There needs to be a lot more executions. Simple math. They can never hurt anybody ever again. Really good example of that is we have a federal prison in North Phoenix here. There was a guy who was in prison there. He'd already killed one person. He'd been executed for that. When he escaped after serving 5 years, he killed 2 more people. Those people would not have died if they'd killed him for the first one. Simple mathematics. Okay? You kill them, they can't hurt anybody ever again. Same with pedophiles. Kill them, they can't hurt anybody ever again. Anyway, being born here is a gift, and learn to appreciate it. You guys have a great evening. Take care.